Okay, let's unpack this. We've got a stack of material in front of us, all focused on one really specific, often nerve-wracking journey,
Mm.
getting into graduate school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And sitting right at the top of that stack is a book that's become pretty much a handbook for this process, the fourth edition of Donald Asher's Graduate Admissions Essays. This thing has sold, what, over 150,000 copies?
Yeah. It's clearly a resource a lot of people turn to. And our mission today is really to take this deep dive into Asher's insights. We want to pull out the absolute must-know strategies, the, surprising realities, and the practical steps that can genuinely help you, if you're navigating this path, understand how to build a stronger application and get into the program that's right for you.
Absolutely. Because the book hits on something right away that I think so many applicants feel, that maybe their background isn't special enough, or, I don't know, that the sheer amount of work feels overwhelming.
Oh, that feeling is incredibly common. And Asher's core point is that many highly qualified students actually underestimate themselves. The secret, he argues, isn't necessarily being extraordinary in some, global sense, but applying strategic effort to leverage what you do have.
Okay, so let's dive into that strategy then.
Yeah.
The source starts logically enough.
Yeah.
First, deciding if grad school is even the right move, and second, tackling the monster question, how on earth are you going to pay for it?
Right. According to Asher, the best possible reason to pursue graduate study is pure, unadulterated passion. Think about a specific molecular process you can't stop thinking about, or maybe a 19th century poet whose work genuinely fascinates you. That deep, passionate interest is key.
Like it feels less like a choice and more like a necessity for you personally.
Exactly, yeah. Other good reasons include genuinely enjoying your undergraduate experience or having a real aptitude and desire for research. And grad school offers this unique opportunity to blend disciplines in ways you often can't at the undergrad level. The source gives examples like chemistry and art history, maybe, to develop new dating methods for paintings, or acoustics and marine biology, perhaps figuring out communication with whales, stuff like that.
Those are some really specific, cool combinations. Okay, what about the red flags? When is grad school maybe not the best idea right now?
Well, a major warning sign is simply not being sure what you want to study at the graduate level. If you're hazy on the specific field or topic, the source suggests, pausing, get some counseling, talk to mentors, maybe take more classes or tests to clarify your interests first.
And the worst reason to go, is there one?
Oh, yeah. Hiding out. Using grad school basically as a way to postpone career planning. The source is quite direct here. The skills and focus required for a competitive graduate program are often precisely the same skills needed to launch a career successfully right now. So if you're just racking up debt to delay entering the job market, you might be better off tackling those career questions head on.
That's tough but fair advice. Now the money. It looks like a mountain. Is it really true, as the source claims, that if you want to go, you can find a way to pay for it? That sounds almost, well, impossible today.
Asher stands by that statement, and it's based on what he calls the truly illogical world of graduate financing. It doesn't operate like a simple transaction.
How is it illogical? What does that mean?
Well, for starters, you often can't know the real cost until you apply and are actually admitted because the aid package is part of the offer. And counterintuitively, some of the most expensive, top-tier schools can end up being cheaper
Oh,
because they have vastly deeper resources for financial aid.
wait. Most expensive equals potentially cheaper. That makes zero sense.
It does seem backward.
Mhm.
And here's another one. Pursuing a PhD can sometimes be cheaper than getting a master's.
Okay, now you've lost me. A PhD takes longer, right? How could that possibly cost less?
Well, in many fields, especially academic ones, competitive PhD programs often come with comprehensive funding packages. Think tuition waivers plus a stipend, usually tied to teaching or research assistantships.
Oh.
Many master's programs, on the other hand, are, let's say, designed as revenue generators for the university, requiring you to pay full tuition.
So the longer, more advanced degree can be the one that pays you, or at least covers costs, while the shorter one is entirely out of pocket. That IS illogical.
Exactly. It really is. And the source also argues that borrowing money to attend full-time can paradoxically be cheaper in the long run than trying to work part-time while you study.
Why? Because you finish faster and start earning sooner? Is that it?
Partly, yeah, but also because full-time status is often a requirement for accessing the most generous aid packages. The value of that aid and the time saved can actually outweigh the interest on loans compared to stretching the degree out over many, many years part-time.
Okay. So the main takeaway on money seems to be, it's complex, maybe illogical, but pathways exist if you look for them. What kind of aid should applicants prioritize?
Right, so a crucial point from the source: much of graduate financial aid is merit-based, not just need-based. So even if you could afford to pay, you should absolutely apply for aid.
And why is that? Just to save money?
Well, yes, but also because assistantships, teaching, or research are often tied to those aid packages. And gaining that experience is essential for certain career paths, especially academia. It's not just money, it's a credential and an experience builder.
I see.
And then there are fellowships. These are the big, prestigious awards, usually with no strings attached, given purely for academic promise. Those are the gold standard, really.
So where do you even start looking for all this funding? It sounds like a huge task.
It is. The usual suspects the source recommends include major websites like findaid.org and fastweb.com. Plenty of books, too, including Asher's own scholarship guides and resources like Peterson's and Cassidy, and of course, lean on your academic advisors. But Asher is very clear. Finding this money is your job. You have to actively seek it out.
And apparently, if you dig deep enough, you find some pretty unexpected stuff, like really specific scholarship.
Oh, absolutely. The source lists some wild examples: fellowships from the EPA, one for Mothers in the Arts, the Gertrude Fogelson Award, the Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship for New Americans, even one associated with the Klingon Language Institute.
Wait, like from Star Trek, seriously, do you have to be fluent in Klingon?
Apparently, just being a dedicated fan is enough to apply. It seems so. There are others for world peace through Rotary, conservation via the Doris Duke Foundation, very specific ones for Scottish medical students, various groups for women, and even vet students through the American Kennel Club. It really drives home that you have to cast a wide net and research thoroughly. The money's out there, but it might be in some unexpected places.
That definitely emphasizes the do your research point.
Mm.
Any final warnings on financing before we move on?
Yes, a critical one called front-end loading. You need to watch out for this.
Front-end loading, what's that?
Some programs might offer a fantastic aid package for your first year to lure you in, but then that support drastically reduces or disappears in later years, especially during the dissertation phase when you might need it most.
Oh, that's sneaky.
It can be. The source urges you to ask correct questions. How reliable is your funding year to year? Is the aid offered in the first year guaranteed to continue at the same level? You need clarity on that.
That's really important. You don't want to get stuck halfway through without support. And for when aid isn't enough, there are federal loans.
Exactly. Federally guaranteed loans are available. The source mentions you can typically borrow up to, I think it was $2,500 per year if you meet basic eligibility, and you'll need to fill out a FAFSA, or for some programs, a GKP-S-FAS form. Standard stuff, but necessary. Student.ed.gov is the place to look.
Okay, so you've committed, you understand the potentially illogical but navigable finance landscape.
Yeah.
How do you zero in on and evaluate the actual programs that are right for you, finding the right fit?
Right. The source gives you a whole toolkit for finding programs. Start with people you know, professors and alumni from your undergrad. They often have invaluable insights into specific departments and faculty across the country. Real inside knowledge.
And then there are the more formal resources, the guides and websites.
Yep. Print guides like Peterson's, plus major websites like petersons.com, gradschools.com, phds.org, gradview.com, and specialty guides for specific fields. Also, looking at academic journals can reveal key faculty and programs through citations, who's publishing what, where.
The source had a neat trick using Google too, didn't it?
Yes, an advanced Google search, using very specific, even obscure terminology from your field, and limiting the search to .edu domains. It's a fast way to find faculty members who are working on exactly what interests you. Finding that shared research interest is just paramount, especially for research-based degrees like PhDs.
Now let's talk about the elephant in the room for many applicants.
Yeah.
Rankings,
Yeah.
U.S. News, etc. The source is pretty blunt about these, isn't it?
Extremely blunt, yeah. Business and news magazine rankings, like the ones from U.S. News, are described as useful maybe for learning about a program, getting a general sense, but highly unreliable for actual ranking.
Why unreliable?
Well, the source points out that their methodologies have been widely debunked. They might be okay for very niche, non-traditional categories like, say, best business schools for entrepreneurs, but questionable for core academic disciplines.
So the numbers you see published, maybe don't put too much stock in them.
The source suggests significant skepticism, definitely. It notes that some academic rankings, like the Faculty Scholarly Productivity Index, are now secret, and the National Research Council collected extensive data but then disavowed their own methodology.
Wait, they disavowed their own data.
Their own methodology, yeah. Even though others still use their data, you can find that NRC data, but the source highlights its limitations. There's also sciencewatch.com/4ADR for citation analysis, but again, it's just one metric. It doesn't tell the whole story.
So if the official published rankings aren't the reliable guide, what is? How do you figure out what's actually good?
Well, Asher makes a pretty provocative claim here,
Yeah.
that the most reliable ranking system is actually informed gossip from faculty members in the field and currently enrolled graduate students.
Gossip. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like hallway talk.
Yes, kind of. The source argues that these insiders have the most up-to-date, on-the-ground intelligence about a program's trajectory. Is it improving? Declining? Are key faculty leaving? How does it really compare to its peers? They know the nuances that won't show up in a magazine ranking from 2 years ago.
Okay, that completely flips the script on how you typically approach this research. So you need to talk to people in the know network.
Exactly. Talk to your professors, ask if they have contacts at schools you're considering, see if they know anyone who recently graduated or is currently enrolled there. You could also attempt to design your own ranking criteria, maybe looking at per capita articles or citation impact, but the source admits that's difficult and time-consuming.
What about international rankings? Are those any better?
The source is equally skeptical, citing cross-cultural issues and, again, poor methodology. The advice, again, find a faculty member from that specific country and ask them which institutions are truly excellent in your field. Get the local perspective.
So the big takeaway here isn't just find the best program, but find the best program for you based on fit, reputation within the field, and that insider knowledge, rather than relying on these, well, questionable rankings.
Precisely, yeah. The source assumes you've identified viable programs and focuses heavily on how to craft an application that gets you into those programs. It does briefly mention that elite programs like, say, Oxford value things like stellar grades, crystal clear purpose, and dialectic, the ability to fluidly argue opposing views, suggesting maybe less room for exploring options within the program itself.
Less flexibility, maybe.
Perhaps. But generally, successful applicants apply strategic guidelines regardless of the school's ranking philosophy. The how is key.
Okay, you've picked your targets. Now comes the real work. Long-term preparation and assembling all the application pieces. Time seems pretty crucial here.
It's huge for certain preparation steps, definitely. The source suggests thinking a year ahead, for example, about summer programs at top schools.
A whole year. Wow.
Yeah, because getting into their summer programs is often significantly easier than getting into their degree programs later. And excelling there provides concrete evidence you can handle their academic environment. It's a great way to test the waters. Some medical or dental schools even have auxiliary summer prerequisite courses you can take.
That's a smart way to test the waters and boost your profile.
Yeah.
Any field-specific preparation tips mentioned?
Yes. For law school, the source strongly recommends getting exposure to real lawyering, not just the TV fantasy stuff. Litigators, for instance, spend very little time actually in court.
Right, mostly research and writing.
Exactly. And for business school, real-world workplace experience is highly valued. They want to see you've been out there.
Makes sense. They want applicants who have a grounded understanding of the profession. Now, letters of recommendation. These feel incredibly important, maybe even scary.
They absolutely are. Crucial. And the source provides really actionable, detailed advice on securing truly fantastic letters, not just average ones. The first step, and this starts early, like way back in undergrad, is cultivating relationships with your professors.
Oh.
Visit their office hours frequently, discuss your academic interests, your future plans. Let them get to know you beyond just your grade in their class.
And when you actually ask for a letter, you need to make it easy for them, right?
Oh.
Give them ammo.
You need to provide them with a complete package of information. Don't just ask cold. The source recommends bringing your transcript, a sample of your best written work or project, your resume or CV, a list of your extracurricular activities, copies of any correspondence you've had with the schools you're applying to, your draft statement of purpose.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is, but it helps them write a better, more specific letter. Also, a list of everyone else who is writing you a letter, and even suggested talking points.
Suggested talking points, like a cheat sheet for the professor.
Kind of, not telling them what to say exactly, but reminding them of specific projects, papers, or interactions you had that might be relevant to your grad school goals, like Perhaps mention my work on the advanced physics lab where I developed that new technique.
Oh, okay. Jogging their memory.
Exactly. The source notes that professors ultimately write what they want, but you can prompt their memory and focus. They might even appreciate a brief handout outlining key things you'd like them to consider mentioning. Makes their job easier.
Who should you ask? The big-name rock star professor everyone knows. Or someone else?
Not necessarily the big name. The source stresses that schools prioritize letters from people who have intimate knowledge of your work ethic and study habits. An immediate supervisor on a research project or a professor from a small seminar where you contributed actively might actually be better than a famous lecturer from a huge class who barely knows your name.
So depth over fame.
Generally, yes. Ask someone who genuinely respects you and your abilities, even if you aren't personally close. And it's worth discreetly asking around among current grad students or recent alumni who writes truly effective, detailed letters. Some professors are just better at it than others.
Okay, what if there's someone who you should ask based on prestige or relevance, like your thesis advisor, but maybe your relationship is a bit lukewarm, or you suspect they aren't wildly enthusiastic about you?
Yeah, that's a tricky situation, and the source addresses it head on. You need a very good strategic reason not to ask a key person like that. Because a reluctant or only tepid letter is almost universally considered bad news, kind of a kiss of death, the source calls it.
Ouch.
Yeah. It's often better to get a truly strong, enthusiastic letter from someone slightly less prominent but who knows you well and thinks highly of you than a lukewarm one from a big name who sounds uninspired.
And the waiver, that box you check.
Yep.
Should you waive your right to see the letter?
The source is absolutely unequivocal. Yes. Waive your rights. Do it. Admissions committees heavily discount letters if they know you reserve the right to see them, even if the letter itself is glowing.
Why?
It signals a lack of trust or maybe an attempt to control the process. Just waive it.
What makes a letter truly stand out then, according to the source? What are they looking for?
Specificity. Concrete examples
Oh.
of accomplishments, challenges you overcame, or unusual aspects of your background that are relevant. A letter is most compelling when it illustrates your abilities with details, not just vague praise.
Got it. Show, don't just tell.
Exactly. The source also notes that a touch of moderate, balanced criticism can actually make the overall praise seem more objective and believable. But the ideal is often a weakness framed as a strength, like acknowledging you took on perhaps too many extracurriculars, but then highlighting that despite that, your grades remain stellar, showing exceptional time management and drive.
Okay. Visiting schools, how important is that? Should you try to do it?
Highly advisable, the source says, if at all possible. A personal visit, and especially an interview, can make a deep, lasting impression on admissions committees, much more so than just your paper application ever could.
But the source also calls it risky. Why risky?
Yes, because in person, you might inadvertently reveal something negative or awkward, or just make a bad impression. Preparation is absolutely key. The source advises you to look the part, meaning clean, comfortable, and seeming sane, professional but approachable.
So, no weird extremes.
Right. Avoid extremes, like dressing overly wealthy or glamorous or wearing strong perfumes or colognes. Just be presentable and thoughtful.
And what kind of questions should you be ready to ask them?
Focused questions, specific ones, about particular faculty research topics, the facilities available, the average time it takes students to complete the degree, both the coursework and the whole program, like the dissertation, and importantly, the program's attrition rate.
Attrition rate, like dropout rate.
Yeah. Ask why students drop out or don't finish. It shows you're thinking seriously and realistically about the challenges.
Practical questions that show you're thinking seriously. Okay, once everything is ready, submitting materials, any traps there, besides using the wrong school name, which you mentioned.
Aha, yes, avoid that one.
Yeah.
Mostly follow directions exactly. The source gives an almost unbelievable example of an applicant who submitted a pastel portrait instead of a requested photo.
No. Really?
Apparently. Don't substitute things. Pay close attention to online submission instructions. Formatting can get messed up, especially with special characters like apostrophes or scientific notation when you paste text into those little web form windows. Proofread the preview carefully.
Good tip. What about submitting extra materials like research papers or publications? Sometimes the online forms don't really allow for that easily.
Yeah, this can be challenging with rigid online systems, but it can be a clincher for admission if it demonstrates significant relevant work. A real game changer sometimes. Scan items if possible.
And if you can't upload,
The source suggests that for genuinely important extra materials, consider sending them in both electronic and paper format, if the system allows, or even sending a paper copy directly to the attention of interested faculty or committee members with a polite note explaining you submitted electronically but wanted to provide a clear copy of the specific significant work. A bit extra effort, but might be worth it.
What about calls from schools after you've applied? Do they do that?
Sometimes, yeah. The source mentions these, including calls related to yield protection, where the school is basically trying to gauge how likely you are to accept their offer if they give you one. They want to protect their acceptance rate stats.
Ah, so how should you handle that?
Be honest about your genuine interest level, but protect your options until you've heard back from all your schools and seen all the offers. The source strongly advises seeking counsel from your current faculty mentors on how best to handle these calls. They've seen it before.
And wait lists.
Yeah.
Is there a standard time frame for hearing back? When do you know if you're stuck in limbo?
Often, yes. There's an informal April 15th deadline in the U.S. for grad school acceptances. Not hearing anything definitive by then can mean you're on a wait list, or maybe even an informal maybe list. The source provides an example where an offer came after April 15th from just such a list, so don't give up hope immediately.
And if you get waitlisted, the school often says something like, there's nothing you can do. Is that true? Should you just wait passively?
According to the source, absolutely not. Don't take that literally. It's often just a standard line. You can reiterate your strong interest with calls or letters, send updates on new grades, publications, awards, or relevant activities since you applied. Ask your professors or anyone with connections at that university to advocate for you, to put in a good word. There are definite steps you can take to try and move off the wait list.
Okay, good to know. But what if, despite all that effort, you get rejected? Flat out. Is that the end of the road for grad school?
The source is really emphatic here. Reapply. Don't view rejection as a final judgment on your potential. Seriously. Maybe you applied too late in the cycle or didn't apply to enough schools or the wrong mix of schools.
So adjust the strategy.
Exactly. Consider applying to lower-ranked programs that might be a better fit or less competitive. Think about getting an interim degree, like a master's, to boost your profile before reapplying for a PhD. Take additional prerequisite or advanced classes as a non-matriculated student to earn better grades in relevant subjects. Gain specific workplace experience, particularly for fields like law or medicine where it's highly valued.
So rejection isn't failure, it's feedback.
That's a great way to put it. And the source shares a truly powerful example of a student who was initially rejected by every single program they applied to. Every single one.
Wow, that must have been devastating.
Totally. But following the techniques in the book, they strategically reapplied the next cycle and got into 10 out of 14 programs, many with full funding.
10 out of 14 after 0. That's incredible.
It really illustrates that initial rejection is often more about the variables in that specific application cycle, the applicant pool, the school's needs that year, than your fundamental potential. Persistence and a refined strategy can make a huge difference.
That's a huge dose of hope right there.
Mm-hmm.
It shows that persistence and a refined strategy really pay off. Now, let's get to what a lot of people consider the make or break part.
Mm-hmm.
Crafting the actual admissions essay, or essays, the statement of purpose. What's the fundamental goal of this piece?
Simple. To make you stand out from the crowd, to convince the committee that you are not just the same as every other applicant with similar grades and test scores, to give them a reason to pick you.
And the source suggests using what's unusual about you as a starting point. How does that work?
Yes, it can be a really effective way to grab the reader's attention right from the start. And unusual doesn't mean you need some globally unique, exotic backstory. It just needs to be something that might be uncommon or particularly memorable to the admissions committee reading hundreds of these things.
Like,
the source gives the example of a student in California whose essay opened with being the only person in charge of her dorm during an earthquake and successfully evacuating everyone. Something like that, handled seriously and reflecting maturity and competence, can be a powerful launch point.
so it's about turning a specific experience, maybe even a difficult one, into an interesting narrative hook.
Yeah.
But keep the tone serious, professional.
Exactly. No frivolous anecdotes. And the source has strong warnings against inappropriate personal details. It famously mentions examples like students writing about being a belly dancer or an exotic dancer, things that are highly likely to sink your application, especially to more conservative programs like law school.
Yeah, probably not the best idea.
Definitely not. Also, avoid focusing the essay entirely on ongoing mental or emotional anguish. It needs to be positive and forward-looking, generally.
Okay. What are some specific exercises the source recommends to help applicants brainstorm ideas for the essay? Get the juices flowing.
Making lists. Simple but effective. List all your research projects, your role, the working titles, any citations. But more importantly, list what you learned from those projects, beyond just the technical stuff. Did you learn new techniques? Sure. But also collaboration skills. Did it teach you humility, perseverance, or maybe compassion? These are the crucial reflections that show growth. Also, list major thinkers, writers, or figures who have influenced your interest in the field. Can you connect your intellectual trajectory to specific faculty members at the schools you're targeting? That shows you've done your homework.
And the source suggests a particular format for a potentially powerful opening line. Something about faculty.
Yes, one that explicitly links your engagement with specific faculty to your fit with the program. Something like, through my frequent correspondence with Dr. Smith, Chen, and Garcia, I've come to understand how perfectly my research interested in X align with your program's strengths in Y and Z.
That sounds good, but it has to be genuine, right? You can't just fake those connections or correspondences.
Oh, absolutely not. The source is very clear that admissions readers can spot insincerity from a mile away. Those connections and correspondences need to be real and substantive. Don't just name drop.
What about mentioning your undergraduate advisors in the essay? Is that expected?
The source says it's pretty standard academic protocol, especially when applying for graduate degrees, to name your key undergraduate advisors. It shows you understand the structure of academia and signals that you've received guidance from established academics. Use their full titles, like doctor or professor.
How important is it to address the school's specific location in the essay?
Crucial, according to the source, especially if you're applying far from where you currently live or went to undergrad. You must demonstrate that you've considered the move and are confident you'll be happy and thrive in that specific location, the city, the region.
Why is that so important?
Well, the source gives an anecdote about a dean in New York City who was reluctant to admit applicants whose essays didn't mention the city at all. It made him wonder if they really understood what they were getting into or if they'd be miserable and drop out. You need to show you've thought about life beyond the lab or library.
They'll just say superficial stuff.
Right. Avoid superficial reasons like, I love the beach, or I've always wanted to go skiing there. Focus on academic, cultural, or professional resources related to your goals. Also, briefly mention what you plan to do in the period between applying and actually enrolling, like summer research, travel relevant to your field, or specific work goals. Shows initiative, and think about your long-term future, your postgraduate career plans, how this specific program fits into those maybe 5 or 10-year goals.
So you have to have it all mapped out.
No, try to envision a specific future. If possible, it helps, but don't feel pressured to invent one if you genuinely don't have a clear 10-year plan yet. The source explicitly says no need to force it. Authenticity matters.
Okay. The source includes a whole section on common mistakes, almost an essay hall of shame. What are some of the biggest pitfalls people fall into? The real doozies.
Oh, there are some classics. Readers really dislike seeing claims in the essay that aren't supported by the rest of the application, like someone claiming deep altruism but having zero volunteer experience listed anywhere.
Right. The application needs to be consistent.
Totally. Or listing a whole bunch of activities in the essay that you clearly just started the week before applying. It shows lack of genuine commitment.
Makes sense. What else?
Another big one is writing an essay that is entirely consumed by deep personal problems, family crises, or making excuses for past poor performance like bad grades. The source stresses that the essay needs to be fundamentally upbeat, persuasive, and forward-looking, showing resilience, not just dwelling on hardship.
What about length? Can you write too much?
Definitely. Too long. It shows a lack of discipline and an inability to follow basic instructions if they gave a word count. And the classic, incredibly frustrating pitfall for readers, using the wrong school name in the essay.
People actually do that.
You laugh, but it happens more than you'd think. A find and replace error, usually. Fatal mistake. And this one's key. Don't waste precious space telling the admissions committee what their own academic discipline is. They are the experts. Instead, focus on what that discipline means to you, how you relate to it personally, and specifically, what you want to do within that field through their program. Make it about your connection.
Right. Don't lecture them on their own subject. Focus on your relationship to it. Anything else for the Hall of Shame?
Yeah, trying to invent a completely different persona than who you actually are. Admissions committees are experienced readers. They can usually tell when you're trying too hard to be someone you're not, or hitting buzzwords without substance. Also using overly academic or jargon-filled language poorly. The source quotes one painful example of awkward phrasing, facility enough to make a claim. Just write clearly and directly.
Good advice. So flipping it around, what specific positive points should applicants definitely try to weave into the essay?
Okay, definitely substantiate your stated career goal with concrete actions you've already taken. Don't just say, I want to be a doctor. Talk about your shadowing experience, your research, your volunteer work in a clinic. Show, don't just tell.
Yeah. Okay.
Crucially, demonstrate an understanding of the real challenges and potential drawbacks of the field or career you're choosing. This shows maturity and helps the committee feel confident you won't get halfway through the demanding program and drop out because you had some unrealistic, idealized view.
Shows you have realistic expectations.
Exactly. Convey that you grasp what life is really like as a grad student, a trainee, and eventually a practitioner in that field. And here's a quick tactical tip from the source on potentially shaving a year off a PhD.
Ooh, okay, insider tip.
Follow your program's official program of study religiously, don't deviate if you can help it, and try to make every single paper you write for your coursework relate somehow, even tangentially, to your eventual dissertation topic. Build that foundation piece by piece.
That's really clever. Stacking the work. Now, the book contains dozens of example essays. While we obviously can't go through them all, how do they illustrate the principles we've been talking about? What can you learn from them?
Yeah, they really bring these ideas to life. You see essays where applicants successfully highlight overcoming significant challenges. The source mentions examples like dealing with a parent's death, surviving military school, overcoming the trauma of a mugging, navigating a blue-collar background, supporting a sibling with a disability, or articulating the complex struggles of being a new American or having an African Kashmiri identity. These essays effectively demonstrate resilience, motivation, and maturity qualities grad schools look for.
And connecting seemingly unrelated personal experiences to academic goals was another theme, right?
Exactly. Like the famous Sound of Kittiwake's essay linking seabird observation as a kid to later interests in acoustics, or essays combining interests like art, occupational therapy, and architecture, or ballet and performance studies, or radio and business. They show a unique perspective and specific, sometimes unexpected passion that genuinely fits the program they're applying to. It makes them memorable.
Demonstrating hands-on research or practical skills also features prominently in the good examples.
Oh, absolutely. Essays detailing specific experiences with, say, nitrogen research, or that 4 a.m. eureka moment of discovery in a lab, or using complex computational techniques, or synthesizing polymers. They showcase research chops and tangible contributions to knowledge. Other essays effectively highlight specific valuable skills like statistics, writing, teaching assistant experience, lab techniques, debate skills, languages, or even trade skills like carpentry if it's relevant to the field, like architecture or historic preservation.
Showing a realistic understanding of the profession was also a key theme in the examples you mentioned.
Yes, definitely. Essays like the law school applicant describing interacting with a difficult witness at a pancake house, or a nurse thoughtfully explaining their transition to medical school, or someone pursuing adult education after navigating a personal crisis that showed them the need for it. They convey an informed, non-idealized view of the career path they're choosing. They know what they're getting into. And almost universally, the successful essays nailed the why this school question. They demonstrated deep research by naming specific faculty they wanted to work with, mentioning specific resources or labs at that institution, and explaining how the program's structure or philosophy uniquely fit their goals. It wasn't generic.
So the source really circles back to that initial fear many applicants have, that worry about being ordinary, doesn't it? How does it address that in the end?
It does. And it emphasizes that the takeaway from looking at all those diverse examples isn't that you need an earthquake story or a Nobel laureate advisor to get in. The statistical chance of any one applicant being chosen for a book sample like that is tiny. The point is to look at why those examples were successful. They applied the core principles we've discussed. Authenticity, strategically highlighting relevant experiences in preparation, and clearly demonstrating potential and, crucially, fit with that specific program.
So compare yourself to the principles, not the specific stories.
Exactly. You compare yourself to those principles, not to the specific sample narratives. How can you apply those principles to your story?
Okay, so looking back at our deep dive today, we've covered a huge amount of ground. Figuring out why graduate school is the right step and navigating that complex world of financing.
Yeah, right, complex.
Finding the programs that are the best fit for you, not just the highest ranked. the crucial long-term preparation, gathering those vital letters of recommendation, and finally, crafting compelling application materials, especially that critical essay.
It's definitely a multifaceted process, but the source breaks it down strategically. And the core message seems to be that admission isn't just about checking boxes on grades and scores. That's just the baseline.
Right. It's about effectively communicating your passion, your preparation, your potential, and maybe most importantly, how well you align with a specific program's mission and faculty, and doing that both strategically and authentically.
Leveraging everything you've done, even experiences that might initially seem mundane, to tell your unique story. And as that powerful reapplication story shows, persistence in the face of initial setbacks can make all the difference. Don't give up easily.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. If published rankings are unreliable, as the source strongly suggests, and things like insider gossip, personal interviews, and these subjective impressions of your fit play such a significant role, what is the real measure of a good graduate program for you? And maybe even trickier, how can you possibly navigate those less than objective factors to convince a program that you are precisely the person they should admit? Something to really chew on as you think about your own application journey.